Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today. It's Ali, Coram, and Ken Shreve here with the breakdown of the action in today's session, Thursday, June 6th, where we saw the Dow, only major index positive on the day. The rest of the indexes dipping ahead of a pivotal jobs report tomorrow, Ken.
Yeah, Salesforce and Amazon kind of outperforming the Dow Jones today. Small caps lagged, and then performance for the Nasdaq and the S&P 500. Wanted to talk about three stocks. Pinterest, P-I-N-S. We put that on the leaderboard watch list yesterday, and felt like we got a buy signal today. Wheaton Precious Metals. This is a precious metals streaming company. Really good day for gold stocks today. And finally, Coinbase, building the right side of a base here.
Okay, we will take a look at those three stocks. But first, let's analyze the major indexes. As you mentioned, Ken, for the NASDAQ and the S&P 500, mostly flat days here. And the Dow on the upside with outperformance from Amazon, you mentioned, right? So right at the 50-day line here, a little bit of weakness in the Russell 2000, down about 0.7%. But in terms of the NASDAQ and S&P 500, I mean, flat is bullish here after a day like Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean they're the two leading indexes at this point. The Dow blue chips and small caps still lagging a bit. Russell 2000 still holding the 50-day moving average, so that's good to see. But yeah, the Nasdaq was up 2% in higher volume. It tried to extend gains a little bit today, but it closed basically flat to down 0.1%. Volume was pretty light. Looks like it came in close, maybe a little lower than what we saw Wednesday. So overall, a constructive session here. Listen, the market's getting more and more comfortable about that first Fed rate cut coming at the September meeting. I think there's about a 70% chance of that happening. So yeah, tech stocks looking pretty good here. We're in a power trend, a confirmed uptrend. So you'll be putting money to work in an environment like this, but just be careful not to chase a lot of extended stocks out there.
Right. And then in terms of today's action, not only was it flat, I mean, the spread today, it was just, it's not like there was a lot of price discovery and we reverse off highs to close flat or reverse off lows to close flat either, just very quiet. So does that mean that it's just kind of we're in wait and see mode ahead of this jobs report, or is it just bullish to see that tightness after yesterday's strength, or maybe a little bit of both?
Yeah, maybe a little bit of both. I mean, it was generally, you can see the Nasdaq traded in a fairly tight intraday range today after a explosive gain like we saw yesterday. Wouldn't be uncommon to see some volatility, but we're in a pretty healthy market here. We're in a market that is, where the Nasdaq is showing strength and support, breaking out S&P 500 support. So, yeah, we had some weak ADP private payroll data. Earlier in the week, we had, I think, jobless claims were a little higher than expected. I think that's, a Fed-friendly number, and the market is kind of placing its bets that we're going to get a Goldilocks jobs number tomorrow. I don't think the market wants to see a really strong number. I don't think it wants to see a really weak number either. So you hear the term Goldilocks a lot. Not too hot, not too cold. I think that's the market, what the market wants to see. Hopefully it'll be satisfied tomorrow.
Yeah, and we know that the market loves to look at all of these economic data points as a potential roadmap for those Fed rate cuts. So here's a look at 0TNX. This is representing the 10-year Treasury yield down a little bit more today. And this week, I mean, we are hitting the lowest level, Ken, it looks like in a couple of months this week. So pulling back in a pretty big way.
Yeah, this is a kind of a pretty interesting dichotomy going on in the market right now, because I mentioned it on IBD Live this morning. You've got a stock market hitting, or at least the Nasdaq and the S&P 500 hitting all-time highs. Probably in anticipation of a soft landing for the economy, where we get slowing growth, but not enough to put the economy into a recession. And then you've got the bond market here. You got money kind of flowing into bonds in a very big way over the past several days. So why is money flowing into the bond market and sending yields lower? Is that still continuing to flag potential economic weakness ahead? So there's a couple of interesting stories. The bond market is telling one story, the stock market is telling another. So I think the market's reaction tomorrow will be very telling to the jobs report.
Okay, well, as you mentioned, we're going to be taking a look at Wheaton Precious Metals soon, but let's take a look at gold. Here's GLD up 0.7%. We have some tightening action right around the 50-day line and a bit of a launch pad here today, Ken. And over the last couple of months, it seems like gold has been more and more in focus.
I think it's still an area to have some exposure. Just looking at the GLD ETF here, listen, there was a nice breakout over that 225 level. It came down, but found support at the 50-day moving average, and it's looks like it's going to try to retest that 220 level again. So saw a lot of interesting technical action in the gold group today. We'll talk about one of those names in a moment, but I think gold is telling us that it's a place to have some exposure here. Saw a lot of good price action in the group today.
Yeah, so right at the 10-week line on the weekly, and then if we go to the monthly, a couple of months ago, we saw that pretty pivotal breakout for gold in March into new all-time high territory, and it's been up the following couple of months, up in April, up in May. Can we have another up month in June? I mean, if it's all about buying right, I mean, buying gold, because this is not like it's a growth stock. Right.
Right.
So you
Well, and this is what's tricky about the market, because you got money kind of flowing into bonds. It's kind of going into gold, and we're in a confirmed uptrend. So we're kind of getting some mixed messages here, which makes things tricky. But I think the market can do fine with gold stocks rallying. And like I said, there were a lot of good moves in the group today. It's been a little back and forth. You can see in GLD's case, it was a pretty sharp pullback after a short breakout attempt, but again found support right where it should have.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, an interesting stock today, Ken. I know you have been following this one for a little while, and that is Pinterest, PINS, and an actionable opportunity today. We saw that explosive move on earnings, it tightening up, and not only did you add it today, to initiate it today, but you even added to the position. So walk us through that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I first started following the stock when it gapped up on earnings. Anytime you see a gap that powerful, a close near highs, good volume, I listened to the conference call, and it really seems to be a company that's firing on all cylinders right now. I know I've talked with you before about this 27 to 40 demographic that is really a fast growing part of their business. A lot of sticky customers of Pinterest, and so the gap up was very, very powerful. And then instead of trading in volatile fashion and giving back some of that gain and filling the gap, it continued to move higher. And then the pullback after a lot of heavy volume price gains came in very light volume. So it was really picture perfect price action. We saw that pull back to the 21-day line and said this one could with the market acting as well as it is, this one could have potential. So we put it on the watch list yesterday, and then we added it to leaderboard early in the morning. And then we just waited to see if we could get an alternate entry, and the stock started to go near highs again, and ended up having a really nice close today. So hopefully a good entry here. And I have to say, even if we get a nice rally tomorrow and maybe more follow through for the broad market, wouldn't be surprised to see Pinterest make a run at that recent high just over 43. So we'll see how that shakes out. But if Pinterest is going to move, it's probably going to need a nice up session for the market.
Okay, well, a promising start here for the stock with a really nice move today, up 3.7% in volume. Next on our list, we want to take a look at WPM. This is Wheaton Precious Metals, as we alluded to, up 3.6% today, along with the strength in gold.
Yeah, and this is I saw a lot of moves like this with Wheaton Precious Metals. Now, what I'll say is, what I'll say is that you look back over the past, a few trading sessions. There were a couple of pretty heavy volume drops for WPM, but again, dropped down to the 50-day moving average, and then it found support, made a big move today, but volume really dried up. So typically, when a stock is finding support, you'd like to see it do it with volume. That's at least pretty heavy. So it's been a low volume rally so far for WPM. This is an interesting company. Not only are they a gold miner, but they're also a royalty and streaming company. So they'll go to these gold mines and they'll pre-buy a lot of what is going to be mined, and then they'll give that miner funding to fuel additional mining. So it's basically a royalty and streaming company as well. But nice test of the 50-day moving average here, and would have liked to see a little more volume behind the two most recent up days, but this is really what a good test of the 10-week line looks like on the the weekly chart here. So wouldn't be surprised if some people wanted to nibble a little bit today.
Yeah, a really nice upside reversal taking shape for the week here. Now, Ken, in terms of gold, something like GLD versus an individual miner here, if you're wanting to get exposure to this space, because they're not the same, right? We know that they are correlated, but you're getting something a little different depending on what you're going with. What is your take on that?
Well, I think as a general rule, I'll go with some of the better performing miners. So I may look at a name like Agnico Eagle Mines, AEM. We just take a look at that. I mean, they're going to give you a little more power than an ETF, but here you see Agnico, broke out powerfully over the 56 level. This was really a strong breakout, ran all the way up to 71.50, and here again pulling back to the 50-day moving average. So you're going to get a little more outperformance. Especially with some of the faster growing gold miners. But some people, don't want to spend the time and pick out an individual name. They'll just go with the ETF, and that's fine too. But I'll tell you, looking through the market surge growth 250 today, there were quite a few gold stocks that look like this coming down, finding support. So pretty compelling action here.
Yeah, I think it's just important to know what you're getting, right? I think when they work, you can see that outperformance. Gold itself as in GLD might be a little slower, but the miners are probably going to be a little more volatile, right?
Yes, yeah, they'll be that, and that's why people sometimes opt for GLD or an ETF. But again, risk reward. In a case like Agnico or even WPM, you've got pretty strong fundamentals, good earnings growth that is fueling the price performance of each stock, and they're not alone. There's like a lot of strong performers in this group, and we've been writing a lot about them lately.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed it out. This looks really interesting here. And the group ranked number 15 right now. Let's round things out with coin. So from gold to coin, but this is Coinbase, and it's the crypto trading platform. So potentially triggering an early entry this week as it carves the right side of a base.
Yeah, you see a prior breakout over 187, made a really strong move. It ran up to 283, but this is just an example of how a stock, digests gains after a really strong breakout. This is what forming a base looks like. It started to pull back after hitting that high at 283. Found support near 200, and now it's back above all of its moving averages, and just forming the right side of a base here. So good one for the watch list. You can see the relative strength rating of 99. Look at the top line growth in recent quarters, especially over the past 3 quarters. You had, triple digit revenue growth in Q1. Q4 it was 52%. So this is a company that appears to be firing on all cylinders, like a lot of other companies right now. And just like the way this base is setting up, going to be patient and wait for a new entry that might come if it gets a little closer to that prior high, and maybe it starts to drift lower and form a handle. So that's what we typically like to see with these U-shaped patterns. But just going to keep it on the watch list here and keep an eye out for an ideal entry.
Great. Well, thank you, Ken. And thanks to everyone for tuning in. That is it from us for today. But we will be back with more tomorrow morning on IBD Live. And we hope you join us as we're joined by special guest Leif Sereda. And we look forward to that. Investors.com/IBD Live for all the details there as we're joined by the investing champion of 2020. So we'll see you there. And then we'll also see you right back here tomorrow at the close.